One thing I wasn't expecting was for West Virginia to possibly be an underdog going into the Ohio game this weekend. Money continues to pour in on the Bobcats.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host right here at Locked On West Virginia. Thank you guys for joining in again today as we discuss another matchup regarding the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Ohio Bobcats. As we talk about the line in this game, something that we don't do a lot on here, but we're going to for this episode because, some things are happening here, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was surprised to see the line had actually moved in this game. So that's what we're gonna look at first. Let me see. Let's see. Well, it started out at 3. 3 points is where the line started, and now it is at 2.5. So it's already moved a half a point, and we're just at Monday. So this is from ESPN, or no, not ESPN, sorry. This is from Google. So West Virginia opening is a 3-point favorite, and the line has moved to 3.5 favorite before settling around 2.5 points. The line moved in favor of West Virginia with some better shown respect for Ohio's potential. But now it has moved back to 2.5 points. And I got to be honest, that's almost a pick'em. Let's just call it what it is. That is as close to a pick'em as you were going to get. Whether you agree with it or not, it's the truth. Now, it could move back up. Let's say Jamori Robinson gets cleared, or any little thing can move it. But I had somebody call me today and say, hey, look, man, where I live at, a lot of money's coming in Ohio, and this line could move to 1.5 and even closer, possibly. So I doubt it. I think it'll probably come back up towards the Mountaineers again. But the fact that it's as close as it is, I think, is bulletin board material for West Virginia, in my opinion. I don't know. Ohio has been a really good team the last 3 years. I can't deny that. They've got an extremely explosive offense. They've got an extremely explosive quarterback that I think most teams would die to have. But at the same time, they just lost to Rutgers on the road. And we're not really sure how good Rutgers is yet. Greg Schiano had the cap to play with, we were assuming, right? So if you trust Schiano as a coach at all, you have to think that he could probably build a team. But we'll have to see what Rutgers ends up being, right? I think that's at the end of the day what we have to do here. As far as West Virginia and Ohio goes, this is going to be an interesting matchup. And I thought I would talk about 10 reasons we can be positive about the game, 10 reasons we can be negative about the game. We're also going to look at the offense and defense at Ohio a little bit before we deep dive tomorrow. I do have the play-by-play guy, Marty, coming on tomorrow from Ohio. He's a really nice guy. So let me get his last name really quick. It's Marty. Starts with a B, I think. I've lost it in my messages already. Marty. I know I've already messaged him before. Maybe he's under a different name on here. I'm not sure. But I know it's on Gmail. But yeah, so we're gonna have him on tomorrow. That's something I'm really looking forward to, man. Anytime I can get a play-by-play guy like Tony Caridi on the show, not only does it help validate the show, but it also just in general gives you a good perspective on what the game's looking like. And yes, Marty Bannister is the name. He's a really good play-by-play guy too. I went and listened to some of his stuff, and he's been around for decades, talking ball at different places throughout the country. So this is a guy that's really, really good at what he does, and will be a really good guest to have on, guys. We're going to be lucky to get that one. So really looking forward to it. As far as the Ohio team goes, I think we'll just do that first. We'll get into the good, the positive and negatives in the next segment. We've talked about Parker Navarro ad nauseum. I know we have. There's no doubt about it. And we're going to continue to talk about him. See, Bangura, the running back, is a very explosive guy. He can catch it. He can run with it. Another guy that you would think would be power forward potential, but they've decided to bring back this offense, and they've got a very veteran offense. And they're going to try to get to the playoff and win the MAC again. So, he's a tough tackle. He was tough for Rutgers to tackle. I'm not surprised he got to the second level against them. I watched the tape yesterday or all last night. I'm like really tired today, honestly. I almost didn't record today. That's how tired I am. I'm scatterbrained. I'm not 100%. So I'm trying to snap myself into form here. Duncan Brunn is another one. He's a sophomore who kind of complements Bangura. They combined for over 100 yards in the game. The offensive line is an interesting group. They had no sacks, only 4 tackles for loss in the game against a Power 4 Big Ten team. And Navarro had time to operate, and the running game was able to flourish against a pretty good Ohio team. So that's going to be something to watch. I really am curious to see how that ends up looking. Obviously, the pass game as well. We've talked about Hendricks as well. Besides Navarro, Hendricks is their best weapon, a guy that can really, really go. Another guy I really believe would be, from my tape study, would be a Power 4 guy if he was able to come out this year. Just from one game, I can tell. He had 40 catches last year, but, he's really come on strong this year for the Ohio Bobcats. So, and if we're keeping a running tally, obviously, I told you guys about Ben Bogle. I told you guys about Darren Lewis. Told you guys about Sincere Bowers. And probably one or two other guys. But, I'm doing okay so far on the West Virginia side of things from tape study. I've already identified a couple of Ohio players we're going to get into tomorrow that I want to bring up. There is no doubt about DJ Walker on defense. He's a second-team All-MAC guy from last year. And what an incredible player he is. He's the safety, kind of like in my opinion, he's kind of like a nickel kind of guy, even though he can play deep safety for him. He really gets into the running game as well. And he is a very experienced and versatile safety. He's got 33 career appearances and is an incredible addition alongside of the other safety, Adonis Williams Jr., and they are a really dynamic safety duo, probably the best in the Mid-American Conference. So, or one of the best. They're very good back there and definitely tough to handle. Joe Marsh, Austin Mitchell, Nathan Hell, and Jay Crable were the defensive line, and they are a strength. They've got depth. They've got a rotation. And although they didn't record any sacks against Rutgers, Rutgers didn't really do a whole lot of deep drops or anything. It was a lot of quick game. But they do have the ability to rotate and keep fresh, which is a key factor because a lot of times Group of 5 teams don't have that. Rutgers or Ohio has that on defense a little bit. Rutgers was still able to move the ball, run the ball on them and all that, but they do have a rotation of guys that they like. So maybe they'll have a better game too, maybe not. So we'll have to keep on checking on that because obviously that first game was a good indicator. If you look at linebackers, is Jack Fries, Michael Molnar, Cameron Hollaball, and Mikael Williams. Mikael Williams, very good player. If you look at Fries, he's the will linebacker. Molnar was the Mike, and then they got a Division II transfer in Hollaball, and also Mikael Williams, who have all been pretty good. They had a really stifling defense last year, 13th in scoring defense, allowed 18 points per game, 8th in total defense. There's a reason they won the Mid-American Conference, and their offense was highly effective against Rutgers, 440 yards. So they feel like they can be really good if they can get their defense back to last year's form. Their offense is already the best in the MAC. So one of the best in the MAC. There are a couple teams on their level. So, they're a handful. We are walking into a different environment, but it's going to be one of the most unique environments in a decade for West Virginia. And that's not even exaggerating even a little bit, because it's going to be a road crowd, home crowd. Talk about that next. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by the Game Cap. That's right, we're talking about the Game Cap on this one. When it comes to the Game Cap, we got to start where it all begins, right? Hats. Quick question for all you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time, sit in the front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would have to be probably the 2006 Pitt game would be a good one for me as well. Gosh, or the Louisville game where Pat White broke out. Yeah, give me the hat to that game, whatever hats they were giving out then. Because these aren't just hats, though. They're vintage style hats, obviously. And I think 2006 is vintage. If it's not, then it should be, because I feel old already. And they're the same vintage styles they wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They're still go for the same price they did back then. When you use code Locked On, you're going to get your vintage hat for $16.99. So do us a favor. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle style design and use code Locked On for an exclusive discount, because legend wear the game. And of course, where else would we be in life without our friends over at Game Time? Of course, we're talking about Game Time. Why else wouldn't we? College football's back, baby. And I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle and a pain in the arse than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout, literally jumping off the ground. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives me the advantage and gives it back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees at checkout. And what you see is what you pay. I pulled up the Game Time app, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. And I'm talking about Locked On West Virginia was buying West Virginia tickets for as low as $25. I love that the app is very streamlined and easy to use, man. So you do the same. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets today with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. The terms are going to apply to that, but if you, again, download the app and then try out that promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off today, and you can swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Game Time today. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download today. And then you ask yourself the question of all questions that matter. What time is it? It's game time. It's segment 2. I'm going to crack open a do. All right. So I was listening to the press conference from the Ohio University head coach today. I almost said Rutgers. Some interesting things he noted today. He did talk about West Virginia a little bit. He noted last week, I watched last week's press conference too. Whenever they were asking him about Rutgers, he said, we kind of just focus on ourselves. And I thought, oh, bummer. He's one of those coaches that don't talk about the other team very much, because I really like to talk about or listen to the other coaches talk about our team so that I can get in whatever. If they talk positively, I'll run with that. If they talk negatively, I'll create a story out of that and run with that, whatever. In this case, he just kept it really basic, really neutral, much like the play calls from West Virginia against Robert Morris on Saturday. And that is that respect for Coach Rod. They play with a lot of tempo. Then one of the reporters was like, "Well, we play with tempo." And he was like, "No, you don't understand." This was kind of a funny part. He was like, "No, you don't get it. Like, this tempo is different. This is not the kind of tempo you're used to seeing us do. That's a 2-minute drill. This is not tempo." 2-minute drills when we speed the game up for a changeup off our fastball or off our curve. No, they have the fastball going all the time. They're Aroldis Chapman, and they're saying, "Can you hit this?" So I thought that he didn't. I mean, listen, he didn't say all that. I'm adding to it and embellishing it. So he was just saying, telling that guy like, "No, they run tempo for sure," and so they're going to try to prepare for that. They also talked about, and this is some interesting dynamics here to the game when you talk about, obviously, West Virginia has a lot of players that played against Ohio in the Cure Bowl last year that Ohio won. There's a revenge factor to this game. It's going to be a video I do later in the week. Revenge factor, because that's the thumbnail I have for now. It may change, but basically it's going to be all the West Virginia players that were in that game up against the Ohio players, and they want revenge, right? I want to wait and see if there's anything said about it. So, those guys got that stuck in their craw. Even though Rich Rod wasn't the coach, he's pissed about it. I'm still his boys, my boys. That's my boys. He wants to get his get backs for them boys now. If you're any kind of red-blooded American, you got competitiveness in you. You want to get your get backs. So I'm all about that, man. I think it's an interesting dynamic going on between the two teams, and there's some play calls. There's going to be some familiarity. He said they were looking at Oklahoma stuff. They're looking at Jacksonville State stuff. They'll be looking at West Virginia stuff. They'll be looking at Louisiana Monroe stuff to try to picture and put together what Zach Alley might or might not run against the Ohio Bobcats. So there's a lot going on. And then you add into the fact that West Virginia is going on the road here. And one of the things that Mr. Brian Smith said was, let me go back to my page where I quoted it because I can't remember it from memory anymore. Let's see. He said, Brian Smith said they're expecting the largest attendance in Peden Stadium history for Saturday's West Virginia versus Ohio game. And it also noted it should be a very pro-West Virginia crowd. Like we've heard many people say now, thousands of West Virginia folks have bought season tickets to the Ohio game just to having a ticket to this game. Pretty crazy. I'd say it'll probably be, I would be shocked if it was, I'm thinking like 60-40 Ohio probably. I wouldn't think it would be fully pro Ohio. Dakota Collins, thank you. I need to put a disclaimer up. Dakota, thank you for that. I appreciate you for sending that. It goes to Locked On and not me. I need to tell people about that more. I've turned it off like 2-3 times, and for whatever reason, it keeps turning itself back on. The super chats, but I'm going to read your comment because you paid for it. WVU scoop in the house. Let's go Mountaineers, and we are listening to the top West Virginia podcast with the man Paul. Let's just leave that up there for a little bit. What do you guys say about that? I didn't read it. What did he say? West Virginia University scoop in the house. That's his X. It's his X page, I'm pretty sure. Let's go Mountaineers, and we are listening to the top West Virginia University podcast with the man Paul. Damn straight, man. I couldn't say any better, bud. So obviously this is an interesting game, though, as far as this is going to be a road game, home game. That's the best way I can put it. A road game, home game where we could likely outpace the Ohio team, Bobcats. I'm just surprised that there were that many tickets to be sold, considering this team has won 10 or more games 3 years in a row. They returned their top quarterback and all their offensive skill talent, or a lot of it. They kept their offensive coordinator. Like, there's a lot of continuity from the team that won all those games. 30-something games over the last 3 years they've won. That's on pace with what we did in 05 to 07 and 08 with Rich Rod. So if that just gives you any kind of perspective on how good they've been, they were as good as we were in the MAC, not at as high a level, but they were as good as us in what they do for the last 3 years. So, I mean, they're in one hell of a tough out. I'm worried about the game, no doubt. Butts are going to be clinched Saturday, and this game kicks off. So it's going to be interesting things. And also, what's the home field going to be like? Is it going to be loud but West Virginia loud, or is it going to be loud but Ohio loud, or both? Would it be more like a neutral site game? If this shifts to neutral site, you've got to really give the advantage to West Virginia then. Flat out. Forget the line, right? Like, that line ain't going to matter. I'll tell you this. If that ends up being a pro West Virginia crowd, you better take the money and whatever the spread is, you just take West Virginia. I mean, it's already to the point now at 2.5 where it's like we either cover or we don't win. If it's 2.5 and we don't cover, then that's really bad. That means we probably lost. So we better cover, Let's go to another break. On the other side, I'll give you 10 reasons why we should be optimistic and 10 why we should be pessimistic. We'll be right back. And, of course, this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by our listener survey. We have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you, man. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and to make your favorite podcast even better. This is your choice, chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. That's right. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started today. And everyone who completes the survey will be entered to a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Make sure you check it out today. All right, guys. Okay, I must not have brought it up there. This episode's also going to be brought to you by Rougiet. You got to get Rougiet ready today, man. You've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, and maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to get Rougiet ready. Rougiet Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, man, there's a 3-in-1 formula involved here. It dissolves right up under your tongue and kicks in fast like a horse. Pow! And on average, in 15 minutes, effects can last up to 36 hours. So you ain't got to get ready if you stay ready, right? So you can stay confident in the bedroom and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked for you, Rougiet might be your answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. So head over to Rougiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege for 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. And understand this, individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but not FDA approved. So they don't undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Just do us all a favor and visit the Rougiet website for full safety information. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining in on another episode of Locked On West Virginia. It's segment 3. 10 reasons why. This is a segment I'm thinking about returning later down the line. I like the 10 reasons why. It may be too many reasons. So I'm going to say one that I don't think I have written down here, but I looked up earlier, and Ohio is 2-0 versus Big 12 teams at home. Something to look at. Iowa State and Kansas they've beaten. Not exactly world beaters, but over the last few years they have been. All right, 10 reasons to be positive. Obviously, West Virginia holds a commanding edge in an all-time series against Ohio with an 8-2 record dating back to 1921. This includes blowout wins like 55-3, 38-0. West Virginia has consistently showcased its ability to overpower the Bobcats. Obviously, in 2001, we won 52-3 and had a 38-point margin of victory in 4 straight wins since 1983. Obviously, we have Power 5 edge or Power 4 edge over their G6 edge. It's the Big 12 team faces a max squad. We should benefit from superior recruiting and resources, right? That's just a fact. We have one of the highest rates of tempo in all of college football under Rich Rodriguez and a strong rushing attack. We should still be able to run the ball on them, given that Rutgers was able to run the ball on them. Number 4, Cam Vaughn's the number 1 superstar. His breakout potential is immense. And to think what he already did against Ohio last year with 180 yards in the game receiving against them and 2 touchdowns or whatever it was. Either 1 or 2 touchdowns. Could have been 3. But I just remember off the top of my head, he had 180 yards on, what was it, 8 catches or 12 catches? I have to go back and look. But obviously Cam Vaughn torched him last year in the bowl game. So they're probably going to work and they're going to overindulge for him. They're going to make sure he's guarded. Well, who does that open up? What about our leadership on offense? We've got a couple of veterans, I think, that maybe getting overlooked a little bit. Jaheim White, Rodney Gallagher, even Nico to an extent, all have some experience now. And, based on their week 1 performance, they showed some continuity. So we'll see what keeps happening with that. Maybe we continue that. 6 is we are at least the favorites in the betting odds, even though we opened up at 3.5-point favorites. The money line's at -150. So, that's pretty interesting altogether. Maybe it doesn't inspire confidence in some people, especially since the lines came down to 2.5 on some places. But I would just say take West Virginia with the money on this one. Our defense with Zach Alley, the reset under him with the new talent is insanely good. And if we get Jamoy Robinson back, shoot me to the moon, sir. The road game, home game experience. West Virginia went 3-3 on the road in 2024 with wins over Big 12 foes that were pretty tough. Ohio has a really interesting stadium at Pitt Field. It hasn't been a fortress against power teams, but they lost to Rutgers, obviously, on the road. But they are 2-0 against Big 12 teams. However, this is probably a road game home game, being it's so close to Morgantown. Finally, one within driving distance. Special teams was interesting last week, and I think continue to be a strength with the kickers all having a pretty good strategy. We used 2 or 3, along with Preston Fox being one of the best, most underrated return guys in the country. I think he plays a part in this game that could spin things in West Virginia's favor. And then there's the motivation. Not the motivation for game day. It's the motivation to get to college game day. Although I've been told by people I work with at Locked On that it's not happening, I haven't seen that. If anybody has seen that, please put it in the comments while I'm talking here. Because I want to know, as far as I understood, I thought it was from the way McAfee and Herbstreit and even Thamel and other people have talked over the last couple weeks, if we can get to 2-0, we have a really good shot at getting that game. But one of my coworkers said that ESPN PR put something out saying that they were going to an SEC game. So I would like to know if anybody knows anything about that. Otherwise, number 10 is the big one. 10 reasons to worry about West Virginia versus Ohio. We're going to run through these quick here. And then one of y'all can look and see if this is a trap game. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Like that, hit that like button before you jump out of here. Subscribe if you're new around here. And last but not least, the Discord link is in the chat. Raven and others are putting it in there as we speak. But yeah, see if anybody can see if ESPN PR said anything about not if they got a place for game day in week 3 or not. That's possible they could be considering. Maybe they thought it was week 2. I didn't think about that. Obviously, number 1 is the trap game potential on the road with Pitt ahead. It's the biggest game in program history. And I don't say that lightly. And I know there are going to be people that disagree with that. So I'll say outside of the national championship and outside of the 13-9 game, this is the biggest game in program history. Maybe you throw in the BCS games, obviously. I can't leave those out. I'm probably overreacting a bit. It feels like the biggest game in program history in a lot of ways, doesn't it? You know, with the whole 9-13 and the whole Rich Rod, his first Power 4 game back is against Pitt. It's just so many factors. And if game day's there, that ups it to nuclear proportions. Hot piss for days then, guys. Ohio went 11-3 last year, 7-1 in the MAC, and they return a lot of that offense where they averaged 30 points a game and only allowed 19 points per game. So that says enough right there. Our defense is unproven, obviously, but I do have a lot of faith in it. But, you know, we have to replace a lot. And a veteran offense like Ohio maybe could expose us a little bit this week. We're going to find out a lot about this defense this week. Ohio's got a big-time rushing threat in Bangura, over 1,000 yards and 6 yards per carry last year. They averaged 201 yards in their opener last year, in their last couple openers. So our run game allowed 164 yards to Texas Tech in the finale, and we got some of those guys back on the D-line. Have they improved? Have we improved? There's a lot to find out and figure out. Injury concerns. I think, you know, we've got a lot of guys that have had major injuries in the past, right? So that have overcome some setbacks. So like Sincere Bowers, you know, he's been banged up throughout camp. Ty Edwards has had the court case going on, and we've got other guys that have dealt with things. And also for the future, we don't want anybody to get injured. Parker Navarro, obviously, 2,500 yards and 18 touchdowns in 2024 and 1,000 rushing yards. Just insane numbers. You know, in a Power 4 conference, he's probably in the Heisman conversation or close to it with those kind of numbers. He's definitely, with 1,000 rushing yards and almost 3,000 passing yards, you'd have to be. The slim margin for error, you know, I think on the road, anytime you go on the road, you have a slim margin for error. Ohio's defensive front, obviously they returned Bradley Weaver, who held Rutgers to 4.1 yards per carry. They got a defense that ranks 14th in points allowed last year and had 38 sacks, which is top 20. And obviously we got a brand new offensive line. Now, all those guys aren't back that created all that, but the core of it is there. We're week 2 improvement to possibly being our week 2 improvement has to, we need to blow these guys out. And one of the negatives I was thinking is if we barely win this game, could it create more apprehension among the fan base that maybe we're not as good as we think we are, and we walk into Pitt beat the hell up because we've had to fight for a game right before them. And number 10, which leads right into number 10, unresolved questions from week 1. You know, we still have a lot of uncertainties. You know, I think the offensive line is definitely uncertain. Secondary depth is definitely something. Obviously, our turnovers are the biggest thing we need to fix, and penalties. So if those things continue, could be a long year in Morgantown, guys. James Green, you are the man, dude. Thank you so much for letting me know I'm at 30 minutes. That's the cutoff. We got to get out of here. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the whole thing for me, please. And we will talk to later. Probably I'll do another video later if I get a couple hours of sleep first. I just haven't slept very much at all. So going to try to make sure to do that because I'm just not at 100%, to be honest with you guys. I'm a little scatterbrained, more so than usual. Like I'm having to push through this because I'm so dang tired. But I was up all night watching film because when else you have time to do it? You got to record during the day. You got to prep for shows, got to do things. And then after the show's over, I got to upload it to all these different things. It's not just recording the show, there's making the media for the show. There's answering all the comments when the show's over with. There is uploading the show from YouTube to podcast and podcast to the other platforms that we have that go out on the radio and go out on TV stations. So, it's time consuming and I love it. I'm just saying, when else could I watch tape unless I did it last night? So I watched the Rutgers versus Ohio game, learned a lot about Ohio. I watched West Virginia and Robert Morris again and learned a lot about West Virginia. Couple things I'll say before we go is versus Robert Morris and I only got through the first quarter. Unfortunately, I fell asleep a little until somebody called me and woke me up like an hour or two later. On the first couple drives, one thing I noticed was it was about 50-50, but there was a couple plays where our guys straight up got beat one-on-one by Robert Morris players up front. And I'm talking about boom, back into the backfield, get out of my way, and I'm making the tackle. And then there was a couple of times, which is a little more encouraging, which Clay Ash's first carry, they missed there was the whole right side of the offensive line missed their blocks. So there's some fixable stuff there going on. All right, y'all. We'll talk later. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. Before we go, I have to tell you about one thing. It's another big moment for Locked On college football fans today with Locked On Fire TV. They were going to present to you Fire College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview with Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12, who leads the conversation along two-time AP Coach of the Year, Gary Patterson, and also Jesse Holley, who was a college star as well. They're Locked On the local experts from Locked On are going to help as well. And the college football preview only Locked On can do is for you. Make sure you catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. See you later, guys. I'm out of here.